Good morning. Welcome to DC Hub 12 volt dual battery setup in my Pajero. So this is where we're up to now. Oh, I tell you what, it was hot yesterday. You probably would have noticed how wet my shirt is, so hopefully today won't be the same, but it's early morning here, Sunday morning, and it's starting to heat up quite a fair bit, so we'll see how we go. No guarantee we're going to finish this off today. As I mentioned yesterday, there's no big hurry. But right now we're going to at least do two things. I'm going to start on the cabling today. Remember yesterday? So that's the Anderson plug that we joined up yesterday. And now what we're going to do today is we need to add the Anderson plug onto this extension piece so that it will reach the DC hub. So this is a battery cable that's running from the car starter battery. And then after we've completed that, then we're going to start on this nice beefy cable you see here that runs from the dual battery system up to this endpoint over here. So what I've got here is about 2.5 meters of the positive and 2.5 meters of the negative. So I went up to my local auto electrician the other day, a few days ago, and got this cable made up. So I got them to put these connectors on here. So this one will go to the fuse. So I'm using, as per recommendation on the manual that came with the DC hub, they recommend you use a 150 amp fuse and then use a cable suitable that can handle more than the 150 amps. So this here is, I believe it's about 35 square mils, thereabouts. So it's the biggest cable I could really find that I can screw in here without doing some modifications to the end here. I mean, you could get a bigger cable and then take off some of the strands off the end here so it'll fit into the terminal there, but I wasn't really keen on doing that, so I went for the biggest cable that I could. So I took that with me when I went to the auto electrician the other day, and also picked up this new fuse which has got the 150 amp built into it. And I got this cable which is already made up. This is cable I used from the old system, so that's going to connect to the positive of the dual battery system, and the negative, well, it's not going to go straight to the dual battery system, this end here. This end here is going to go to my shunt. So I'm using a shunt so I can record everything that comes in and out. So it also monitors the voltage, but it's really important that it records, particularly when you've got a lithium battery, that it records the incoming and outgoing of the amps and gives you a state of charge. Now with an AGM battery, you can kind of tell what state of charge your battery is by looking at the volts. Although that's not always 100% accurate unless there's no load on the battery. In my situation, there's basically a load on the battery 24 hours a day because I leave my fridge on all the time. It's very rare that ever gets switched off. And in fact, during the last couple of days while I've been working on this build, this is the longest that my fridge has been switched off since I got it some probably a year and a half ago. Actually, it might even be longer than that. So the fridge having a bit of a rest right now. But I'd say it won't be too long before it'll be up and running. And who knows, it may even be today, as long as it's not too hot. But I can feel it starting to get humid already. But like I said before, there's no big rush. Tomorrow is forecast to be a rainy day, cooler day. So maybe that might be a good day for me to continue and finish off this build. So right now, let's get on to this and add the Anderson plug onto this here. And we'll do it the same way that we did it on this connection here as we did yesterday. So the first thing we want to do is we want to split this positive and negative cable apart very gently without getting it shorted out. If you nip it a bit, then you should be able to grab it and just tear it off like so. Now we'll get the Anderson plug out and measure it up so we get the right length. So you want to go a little bit more, because remember we're going to put some solder into this. Got to be a little bit more careful here, because this wire stranding I notice is a little bit more flimsy than what I did before. There we go. So not to forget to get some of this heat shrink ready to put on there. I ran out a few components, so I went uptown, so it's a couple hours later. It took me a while to find what I needed on a Sunday. So what I did is I had got a different idea. I thought, why not do this outside, get access to the breeze. So I put my awning up, my Drifter 270-degree awning up, and it's really nice. It's a lot more bearable now, because today it's hotter than it was yesterday. Inside the shed, there's no way I could have continued this today. So right now we've got this cable, so continuation before. We've got the cable that's already been stripped. You saw how I stripped that before. So that's now ready to solder. So let's get into it. Now this is a bit awkward doing it like this. Normally there's no way I'll do this on top of this plastic bench here, but I'm just going to be very careful. I'll do this on the vise in the shed, but there's no room for a camera in there. There's only just enough room for me where the vise is. Solder's going straight in there. I also got some larger heat shrink this time. Alright, so we'll let that cool down. So I've completed that part of the installation. Now as you can see, I've got the heat shrink over the top. So all that's left to do, these Anderson plugs, now they only go in one way. Make sure you got these clips so they hook on that tab on the inside there. So you can see there, they got that hook on that side. So they've got both a positive and a negative. So now we're going to fit this in the right way around. And sometimes, depending on the Anderson plug, can take quite a bit of force to get these in. Murphy's, you're usually the one you always film. The most difficult of all that I've ever encountered. Alright, that one worked. So you can hear that when it clicked in place. Now you can see the negatives, it's not in all the way yet. So it's a stubborn bugger. Oh, ow. Have a look at that. That looks pretty close. So I've joined those two Anderson plugs together. Now I think the issue is here. I question the quality of these Anderson plugs. I've never had Anderson plugs that wouldn't fit in properly like that. Plastic doesn't look really good. Purchased this Anderson plug from a store that I've purchased from for many years. They seem to have gone down on the quality. They've got a different brand, because I noticed they're in a different packet, and I'm not really happy with them. In fact, I'd go so far as to call them they're an inferior quality. But in the near future I'm going to replace this whole cable so there's no joints. Now what we're going to do here is we need to route this cable. Now bear in mind this is just a temporary install, which means that this will be redone again, the routing of the cable, because at present my deep cycle battery is inside my battery box that I built. If you have a look on the first of the series, you'll see there where I got my battery box located. But that's going to be relocated when I get a lithium to a different spot. Where I'm not too sure, I've got one or two choices. I could butt it up against this wall up over here, or on these Pajeros these Pajeros have got a third seat well, so they've got 3 rows of seats. And I took the 3rd row seat out because obviously I want to put my fridge and the drawers in it, the drifter drawers in. When you don't require the 3rd row of seats, because these are classed as a 7-seater, they actually fold into a cavity that's in the back here, and it's quite a big area. So at the moment there's nothing in there apart from my jack and a few tools, so if I get a flat tire on the road. And a lot of people at the Pajero have been setting up their deep cycle batteries in there. Now I didn't do it on this case because of the weight, because I think I didn't want too much weight right at the rear end of the 4-wheel drive, considering these AGMs weigh 36 kilograms for this one I've got here. A lithium battery only weighs about 12 kilos, and it'll give me access to 80 amps safely without deteriorating the lifespan of the lithium, whereas the AGM, the absolute maximum I can take out of that is probably about 50 or 60 amps, and even then that's not really good. That taking it down that much will dramatically reduce the lifespan of this AGM. So one of the reasons why my AGM has lasted so long is that majority of the time I only ever take it down to about 30% discharge out of it, down to 70% charged. For that reason I get a lot more life out of it. So these AGMs like to be topped up, kept full as much as possible. So we're going to reroute this, bear in mind that this is a temporary install. If I can hide it behind the seat here. So what I've done is I've routed the cable. I managed to route it under the seat here, which is out the way, and I'm coming up the side here. And now we're going to put the first cable in. So we're going to put it into starter battery input over here. I'm actually using 6-gauge cable here, and it appears to be about the thickest that you can actually fit in here. Grab my torque wrench now and set the right setting on that. All the black connectors are 4 Newton meters. That's for the 150 amp connector, so that's that big black one that connects to the deep cycle battery. And the other black ones are 0.6, and the green ones, which is what I'm doing now, are 1.2. Alright, so that just clicked. What we'll do next is we'll get some zippy tie, and we're going to zippy tie this onto this here. And you want to try to bend this up a bit. There we go. Seeing that we're working on the cables on this side, so I thought I'd put the camera on the other side, and I'm just using the zoom, so hopefully you can still hear me quite clearly. So I'm using my boom mic today. So you can see I've got the zippy tie on right here, and you can see how that's securely fastened onto there. Next thing we need to mount, so they mount into these 2 terminals here. Now I could go and grab the instruction sheet for the Redarc DC charger, and the instruction sheet for the Egon DC Hub, which I will shortly, just to double check. But Heinz recently put up a video on the Egon YouTube channel, so if you haven't seen it, check it out, on how to install the Redarc DC charger onto the Egon DC Hub. Down goes into the positive up the top here. You don't need to get any fancy connections for your devices. There we go. I'm just going to bring up the video here now. A negative cable to auxiliary battery negative, and the negative cable is this black one. So auxiliary battery negative is this one right here, right beside the one that we just installed. Next one
connect that to charger input.
Red cable into charger input. So as you can see, it's simplified. And then we got one more
to the solar input.
And the yellow one, which is for the solar, goes into the solar input. So they're all marked. And we've got the torque gauge. So as we've done before, we're now going to add these zippy ties in. So next thing we're going to do now is we're going to mount this fella up here. So what you see here is the Victron MPPT Solar Regulator. I've already made up a cable here. What we might do now is connect the fridge up. Alright, bit of a change of plan. I know before I said that I was going to leave it till tomorrow. Well, I changed my mind. I wanted to finish it off because tomorrow's forecast some pretty bad weather here, which I hope comes true. Could do for some rain and to green the place up a bit, and it's getting really dry here, so fingers crossed it rains. So I thought after a little nap that I had at lunchtime and a good meal and a drink, I felt rejuvenated, so I got back into it. So I wanted to finish it off, so I didn't bother about filming, but basically all I had to do was just connect the deep cycle battery to the DC hub. So all I had to do was just strip the two ends off the cable, screw it in there. I thought it wasn't no point filming that because you all know how to do that, I'm pretty sure. So just screw in and just tighten, so that's it. And I just rerouted the cables a bit to the best I can at this stage. I haven't finished yet, I'm going to retidy it up a bit more, but I'm pretty happy the way it is. The main thing is that everything is secure. But I left one thing left to do. I thought I better film this part, eh? This perspex cover. So there should be, what have we got? 5 screws. So there should be, when you get the DC hub, you get all these screws with them. There's quite a fair bit here. So it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So obviously it must be these oblong shaped ones. So let's peel the protective cover off. And join me for the finishing touch. Oh, and it all works too, by the way, except, well, I haven't started the car up to make sure the DC charger works, because I only just now finished it and I turned the camera on, but hopefully that will work. Minimal cables, so versatile. It's nothing like it out in the market, guys. So that's it. What do you reckon? Looks pretty good, eh? I think it does. I reckon it's done a good job. I'm pretty happy with it, eh? On the rare occasion that I do get a passenger on the back, it's not a problem, they can still sit in here. But like I said, most of the time, it's very rare I ever get any passengers in the back here. Probably two or three times a year, that's it. Let's start the motor and make sure she all works, eh? and she's charging. That's good. Excellent. So the deep cycle battery is charging off the DC-DC. So that's all working. The fridge works. I tried the fridge. I've got a couple of USB points I've connected up. So I'll try them later, but I'm pretty sure they will work. Got a cigarette lighter I connected. I'm pretty sure that will work as well. So she's on boost charge at the moment, which is great. Okay. Oh, there it is, guys, all in all its glory. So you can see how I got that set up. So on the left of those two thick cables, that's going to the dual battery, the deep cycle battery. On the bottom, they're going to two USB ports and a cigarette socket. The next cable over to the right is a bit bigger. That's the input for the Victron MPPT Solar Regulator. To the right of that, right on the corner, that's the input from the car battery into that one. And then up the top there, we've got the DC-DC charger. Now, I can use the built-in MPPT solar regulator on the Redarc DC-DC charger by connecting the solar panel into this point. So all I do is just add another cable in there with the Anderson plug, and I can plug a solar panel into that one, albeit maximum like a standard 12 volt solar panel. Whereas with this one, you can see here with the bigger cable, that's for my high voltage solar panel. That one, it puts in about 50 volts, makes lots of amps. I love it when a plan comes together. And that is where my deep cycle battery is stored. I've got the AGM sitting in there. And you can see, because this is a temporary install, you can see I've just temporarily got the cables running along there and going in between their seats, up there behind the chair, up behind the chair, and plugged in over there. There you go, guys. How awesome is that? I reckon that's a finish. I reckon this is, what are we up to? Part 5. I reckon this might be the last part for the build series. Now I will have other videos showing this all in use, and there'll be a review showing what I think about it as time goes by. Probably one after I do the next camping trip, or after I've used it for a while. I'll do a video then, and then there'll be another one maybe a month or two, I don't know, and then further on long term as well, to see how it goes. Now eventually I'm going to add more components onto that. Once I get the lithium, I'll do a video series on connecting the lithium up with the ARB twin compressor and show you how I'm going to do that. I've already got it all planned, I just need to get the lithium. So, and they're still quite expensive, as you heard. So you can see I'm quite happy, guys. That means I'm going to have a bit of a rest tomorrow. I've got a few photos I've got to take for Drifter in the morning. Now that shouldn't take too long. And then I'm going to have a bit of a rest, because I've been at this for the last few days. And I've been taking me time, so I haven't been spending all day on it. Now that I've done it once, if I was to do it again and I wasn't filming, I'd have it done in no time at all. So these are very quick to set up. Extremely quick, a lot easier, makes it very, very easy. Just about anyone out there, any one of you guys will be able to set these up. So as long as you know how to strip a wire, okay, pull a wire out and make sure you put it the correct negative and positive, and make sure you got the correct size in the cable. There's no reason why you cannot wire one of these up. I think it's the future, actually. I think Andrew St. Pierre White, if you're watching this, I think, and Heinz, I think he came up with a really good product here. It is expensive, but you kind of get what you pay for it, and there's a lot of research and development going into this, and they're not cheap to produce. They're using all the best quality of the gear, and it's Australian manufactured as well, which is what I like, so that's excellent. So great to support the Australian manufacturing. So I hope you enjoyed this series, guys. I can't tell you how happy I am. How happy I am to get rid of all those crimps and cables and everything. You know, of all the build, the whole system rebuild, there's only 2 cables they had to get crimped, put connections on, and that's to connect to the deep cycle battery. That's it. I mean, there's no way you can bypass that. You need to connect to the terminal. The rest, nothing. But if you're starting afresh, obviously you've got the extra 2 with that cable that runs from your starter battery into the DC hub. Then you've got to have two crimp connectors on there to connect to your battery. But I'm just reusing the same one. Oh, and there's the Anderson plug. I had soldered those Anderson plugs together, but that'll work for now. But like I mentioned before, all these birds, a whole flock of parrots is just flying over. I don't know if you can hear them. It's a heap of galahs. There's hundreds of them. Can you hear them? Noisy. You think I'm in a zoo by the sounds of it here. So I lost my train of thought then. So how cool is that? I mean, I love this. I'm very happy with it. Like I said, it's just so simple. It's going to be a lot of worry off my mind too, because and now the way the system is built, even though I've never had an issue, I built my old system about 4 or 5 years ago. I never had a problem, never even had a fuse blow, but still worried me because there were so many cables, so many this, so many bus bars and everything, so many crips, so many joints. But now there's very minimal joints in this, very minimal, hardly any at all. Like I said, the only ones is basically your crimp to connect to your batteries, and that's about it. What else is there? That's it. The rest is just exposed, and you just lug them, tighten them down. So put them down, tighten them down tight enough, and you won't have a problem. Every so often I'll check the tightness. I'll take that clear cover off and check the tightness, but I've got those lugs down fairly tight. I'll be surprised if they'll ever loosen. But after I've done a forward drive or a couple of weeks time, I'll check them and make sure they're tight, and they should be fine then. So, alright guys, this is going to be a fairly long video. So I can imagine there's going to be a fair bit of editing to do here. I don't think I'm going to get this uploaded tonight. I'll try to get it tomorrow or the next day. The next videos after this will probably be a review showing how it works. Or I've got remember I got the series I'm planning on filming. I'll wait till the weather cools down a bit on the weight of this Pajero. So I want to take everything out of this Pajero, empty bar the fridge, but it's all empty, the drawers all empty, and take it to a weigh bridge and get it weighed, so then I know how many kilos exactly of camping gear I can take with me on top of that. And then eventually what I'll do is I'll weigh all my gear, and I'll have a spreadsheet done up, or an app on an app. When I was doing a lot of lightweight backpacking, I used to have an app on my computer. I weighed everything, not my computer, on my phone, and I weighed everything, and I ticked it off as I packed that gear in my backpack, and it gave me a total on the weight. I want to start doing the same thing with this setup. So particularly in places if I plan to do a bit of forward driving, etc. So I mean, the ideal is also to, probably the idea is to do it with the rooftop tent on it. So I'll probably do it with this one that I've got. Whatever one I've got on at the time, I'll do that, and because I know what the weight of it is, so I'll get the weight of that from the manufacturers. And then if I plan on changing that rooftop tent, then I'll remove that, I subtract that weight, and then add the other one and add that weight to the list, and then work out from there. So that's going to be a video series coming up very soon as it starts cooling down. So till then guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any questions, ask below. If you don't like the video, hit that dislike button twice. If you like the video, hit that like button. Please subscribe, helps my channel out enormously. The more you guys support me, the more enthused I'm going to be in creating these videos for you. And I mean, the longer I spend in front of the camera, the more confident I'm getting in front of the camera. So I'm quite enjoying it. I used to always hide behind the camera, but now I'm in front of the camera and I love it. I quite enjoy it, as you can see. So this is an enjoyable series. I didn't think I'd get it done this quick, to be honest, once I got into it. So I'm really happy. Can't wait to get out on the road, go camping and put it to the test. So till next time guys, look after yourself, be kind to everyone, and cheers.